Now I don't know what you come to do. I don't know what. Well, I've been down all day today. Let's have a house party. Let me do this real quick. There's that better. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to CNN. I'm Kirk Kennedy, and I'll be your host. Let's go in. All right. This is day 4 of 100 Days Challenge. Boom, boom, boom. This might actually be the most I've posted. I might post a day or two and then keep it moving. This is day 4 of 100, and let's get it in. All right. Again, welcome to CNN. This is the CNN joint, the Kurt News Network. Right. Kurt in. Let's go in. All right. Yesterday, on my day 3 post, I did a post called Digital Blackface. And I was talking about this nonsense. I think it's nonsense on many levels. Obviously, there could be some people who do this, and there's some truth to that. I think it's nonsense on many levels. But anyway, I did a post on Digital Blackface, and I talked about what it is and why I think it's somewhat crazy and what's happening in the deeper sort of subculture of our country right now. But I ended that post saying, but there is a reason why things like digital blackface and stuff are happening, right? There's a reason why people are being, particularly people of color or people who think they're supporting people of color, why is there so many screams for racism? Where'd all this come from? Anti-racism. Now, you'll hear from a lot of people. You'll hear some people, oh, they're just woke. You'll hear, oh, it's the left. They're just trying to progressive left. You'll hear a number of different things. And you may have heard what I'm going to say today, but I would venture to say that many people are not going to tackle what I'm going to tackle today because there is an underlying issue. Now, I've made it clear I serve no political agenda at all. I can't stand the left at all, Democrats, and I cannot stand the right at all, Republicans. So I am not here. If I'm woke, it's only because Scripture says, "Awake, arise and be awakened, be sober-minded, stay awake." Jesus said, right? So it's none of that. I'm not supporting white supremacy, and I don't think everything is racist. However, I do try to call it like I see it, right? We try to keep it 100. You know what? The scripture for this, for what I do is this. You know how to interpret. This is Jesus talking to the Pharisees and other disciples. You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs of the times. What I'm trying to do is interpret the signs of the times. What's really going on? All right, let's talk about this. Why do things like digital blackface happen? In fact, if you've been alive for the last 12 years, why has our country gone through so much racism stuff, right? What's really happening? And there is one phenomenon that's happening that I've seen happen. It's something that people have known for some time, but this stuff just wasn't getting called out, right? But like now that this is the call out culture, everyone's saying what everything is. There's one particular underlying issue that is the reason why people come up with stuff like digital blackface and all these different things. There's one underlying issue, and I'm going to make this point and show you this in two current situations. And the underlying issue is these two words: black sin. Black sin. But more importantly, like, what do I mean by black sin, right? I think black sin are characteristics, actions, words, whatever, things that are typically characterize black people. Like, we sometimes call them stereotypes, right? The interesting thing about stereotypes, a lot of stereotypes are actually true about the particular ethnicity you're talking about, but they're just like negative things that you're not supposed to say. So they're almost like politically incorrect truths about certain people, right? They're not always true, but they're characteristic of. Here's the underlying problem of why things like digital blackface come up and what has happened over the last 10 years where all this stuff has risen to anything that has to do with race, you're somehow woke. Here's what's happening. And I put it in this. The underlying issue is there is, in America at least, there is in America a fascination with black sin. A fascination with an emphasis towards an almost, oh my gosh, towards sin that essentially every single ethnicity commits. Let's just keep it a century, right? Proverbs says this all over the place. 1 Corinthians 10:31. There is, Ecclesiastes says, there is nothing new under the sun. Right? 1 Corinthians 10:12. No temptation has seized you except what is common to man. In fact, if you look at the Bible, when it gives the categories of sins, the reasons why the wrath of God is coming, there are no particular issues that are assigned primarily to a particular ethnicity, right? Everyone sins in every particular culture. But in America, there is a fascination with sin when black people do it. And it's on both sides, right? On the left side, there's a fascination with it in order to embrace it, right? So a lot of like black culture, there's segments of black culture and rap culture that will embrace sinful lifestyles. I mean, it is amazing to me, and I come from the streets, right? So I know the code, but it's amazing to me how many people will, like, you will be, I'm talking about shamed for snitching, right? So you can see someone could kill your best friend. You know who did it. And if you're in the streets, you cannot tell the police who did it. You just have to be like, I didn't see it. Even you don't tell that mother who you grew up with. There's this like weird code. It's not even weird. It's a sinful disposition that things that are overtly violent or negative at times are adopted by black culture. So there's a fascination with black sin on that side. Now, I talked a little bit about that a little bit yesterday. Today, we're going to talk about the fascination from the other side. There's the other side that comes from more the conservative side that more like, well, look at what black people do. Look at this. Whenever there's something that happens, like prime example, these two categories people know, right? Abortion and crime, all right? Abortion and crime are two issues that people just act like black people are the only ones that do it. So like when abortion comes up, it'll be like, however many babies get aborted. Someone will admittedly acknowledge, yeah, but black people are 13% of the population, but they have this many abortions. Now, I could be wrong in what I'm about to say, but from what I know, abortion is not done. There are more white people that have abortions than black people, just by the sheer numbers of how many people are in the country, right? But there is an overemphasis on when black people have abortions, as if when people stand before the Lord, it's like, oh, you're black and have an abortion? Over here, special judgment for you because you're black. It doesn't work like that, but that's how we treat it in America. And you talk about crime. I mean, I've said this hand over fist. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but you'll hear this statement: black people are 13% of the population, but commit 51% of the murders, right? Then you look at the FBI murders, and it's like 5,248 murders are attributed to black people. But black people, there's 44 million black people. So that means 0.000000961% of black people committed a murder, right? But they'll make it sound like, oh, there's this fascination with black sin. And you get people who are black, like a Candace Owens and other people who highlight this. But in the most recent moment, here's where you see this play out in the most recent moment, all right? On Monday night, there was an incredible basketball game. Incredible. I'm talking about this game broke records. There was, at one point, 12.5 million people were watching the women's NCAA championship game. And I'm going to be honest, a lot of that, I watched it too. I don't think I've ever sat and watched the women's final. To my shame, I think I just like, I like basketball. If you can ball, I don't care what gender you are, right? I like basketball. But to my shame, I usually don't watch it. I just watch the men's tournament, and that's a wrap for me. Then I go to basketball, NBA, wait for the playoffs, and then watch that, right? But this final was crazy. What made me watch it was really because of this white girl named Caitlin Clark. She was balling. And one of the things, and let me tell you something, as a black dude from the street, right? one of the things I respected about Caitlin Clark was she was kind of gangster with it. Like, not only could she, and don't get me wrong, there were other players, the people who won the championship, Angel Reese, and we'll get to that in a second. They were the women were balling in this tournament. I saw some highlights. I was like, yeah, that crossover was ridiculous. Them girls would have had me falling on my back, right? Crazy how much the game has changed for women. But I watched it mainly because I kept hearing about this girl named Caitlin Clark. And every time, white girl from Iowa that was balling. And every time I watched her highlights, she was walking up, popping from like a step after half court. But what I like most about her is when they were playing Louisville, there's another girl named Haley Van Lith that's tough, right? Tough, lefty, can ball. She did this to her when Caitlin Clark walked by her and went like this, boom, boom, hit her with the John Cena. And then at one point said, yeah, shut up, you're down 15 points, right? You can see her lips tell her this. She was carrying folks. And then when they played South Carolina, who was undefeated, they won the women's championship last year. They were 36-0 when they played Iowa. And she was doing stuff like, she was carrying them. At one point, a girl was wide open to the top of the three. She waved her off like, yeah, whatever. I'm not even going to guard you, right? One of the things that people appreciated about her was not only could she score at will, she was just like, whatever. I don't care what, just roughing people, right? So then we get to the championship game. I personally watched this game to watch her play. Now, I knew LSU was tough. Angel Reese, who's the star of LSU, went to University of Maryland, Maryland Terps. She transferred to go to LSU. I live in Maryland. The University of Maryland is less than a mile away from my actual church. So when the Terps are playing, she transferred there. She was a beast, right? So at the end of the game, towards the end, when it was clear that LSU was going to win, Angel Reese, a black woman, was doing this. She was doing this to Caitlin. The white girl who did that to Haley Van Lith, just like the previous weekend. She was doing this, doing that. And then she was pointing at her ring, right? She was taunting her, okay? LSU wins, and then there's all this conversation, right? All this conversation blows up about Angel Reese. I mean, there was stuff like this. I'm not going to say what everyone said, but here's where some of these quotes are from popular, well-known people in sports media. One of them called Angel Reese, called her doing that a classless piece of the S expletive. And another person said, what an expletive idiot, right? It was an F-bomb, right? Now you understand, in this day and age, when you tweet these things and say these things, we have access. Everyone watches us. There were tons of videos talking about Angel Reese being this aggressive, rubbing it in her face, unsportsmanlike, classless, all this stuff, right? And some people were like, wait a minute, hold on. Caitlin Clark was doing this all tournament long. I mean, this girl, Caitlin Clark, she's the best player I've ever seen. I'm sorry. I mean, there's a lot of good players. Some women may get offended. Caitlin Clark was crazy, right? But there was this emphasis on Angel Reese. Now, Angel Reese did it a little bit more and taunted a little bit more than Caitlin Clark did to Haley Van Lith. But it was essentially the same thing. But there was all this. I mean, if you go on YouTube now and you type in Angel Reese, you'll see a ton of videos of people either defending her or people attacking her. But no one attacked Caitlin Clark, the white girl. No one attacked her. No one. So I was watching this, and I don't always agree with Stephen A., and he's not a dude that I look to. I mean, he's a great sports thinker. But I want to just give you an excerpt of what Stephen A. said, because I thought he's the only one. He has the credibility to call this out. But he doesn't say what I'm going to say after it. But I wanted you to hear a second of what he said, his interpretation of this situation. Here's Stephen A.
First of all, I don't disagree with anything that you're saying, Janae. I just think that you're being quite nice and lovely, as you always are. So leave the vitriol to me. I'll absorb it. I'll call it what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, I love Caitlin Clark. She's been a guest on this show. I think she's spectacular. I'm the one that's been calling her the Steph Curry of women's basketball, and she has done nothing to push that back. I mean, this young lady is spectacular. She's been great for women's basketball overall, not just college basketball, but women's basketball. I think she has the potential, when all is said and done, to be arguably the greatest ever, because when you have that kind of range and that kind of handle, and you can pull up from the parking lot like Steph Curry, for crying out loud, I think that's something that you can transition to the next level, and it's going to be spectacular to see, and I can't wait to see it. But here's the reality of the situation. She instigated this kind of stuff. Let's call it what it is. She was waving. She was doing the Cena. How about what she did to Raven Johnson? She didn't just go into the lane and not guard her against South Carolina in the national semifinal. She waved her off. She didn't mind being disrespectful. So why is it that we're hesitant to bring that up? See, here's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to dilute your point by any stretch, Janae, because I get where you're coming from. And as a lady, you should take that position along with Molly about how we all need to grow up and accept the fact that these women are highly competitive, they're highly gifted and skilled, and we should give them the love and respect and deference they deserve. But I'm going a step further with this. We all know that there's a white-black issue here, because the fact of the matter is, when Caitlyn did it, people were celebrating it, and they were talking about nothing but her greatness. But then the second a sister stepped up and threw it back in her face, now you got half the basketball world saying, well, you know what, that's not the classiest thing to do. That's not the way.
It was the exact same thing.
It was the exact same thing. Now, you can make an argument that if...
Okay. I have to be honest and agree. Even though Angel Reese's was a little bit more aggressive than Caitlyn was, listen, they're athletes. Now, you can make an argument that there's also kind of a sexist thing, like women have to be prim and proper when they play. Because when dudes play, if you can read lips, dudes be talking big trash to each other, right? Black, whatever. But the reality was, this was a white girl who can ball and who was getting all the attention. The LSU felt like they were being disrespected and overlooked. And so when they won, they were like, yeah, we did this, right? It's just a part of basketball. But then all of a sudden, culture made it a black-white issue. The girls didn't make it a black-white issue. Angel Reese said, look, I don't care what people say. I'm speaking up for people who are like me. Caitlin Reese was like, I don't think she should be getting any flack at all. Like, this sports. This is what we do. But the rest of the culture is making it seem like when Angel Reese does it, it's a problem. But when Caitlin Clark does it, we celebrate it. She's going hard. She's competitive. What's happening? There is a fascination with black sin that America has. America has a fascination. You can call me woke if you want to. You can unfollow me. I'm not tripping. I just keep it 100. Don't like me when I criticize the left and get mad when I criticize the right. I keep it 1,000, right? There is a fascination with black sin in America. And even as something as petty as the John Cena and her saying, we won, we're getting a championship and you're not. I mean, you're talking to the girl who has been the talk of the tournament. I tuned in to watch her play as many other millions of people did. And then she loses. And they got beat pretty badly. They started to come back, but they got beat. Why did it become, it's cool for Caitlin Clark to do it, but not Angel Reese? There's a fascination with black sin that America has. And this is why a lot of black people this is why things like digital racism come up, digital blackface, because they're so fascinated with the things that we do that there are black people and people who are sympathetic to black people are now pushing back and saying, well, this is wrong. Look at what you do. Look at what you do. But when you do that, but isn't it funny, if you're white and you call out this stuff, maybe some might call you, a prejudice or a white nationalist or something. But largely, nothing's been said. But if you're black and you're woke, right? Which brings me to the second proof of evidence that there is just a fascination with black sin in America. And by black sin, what I mean is all of us fall short, right? When white people have abortions, it's not more sinful than when black people do. When white people commit murders, when they go in and shoot up schools, it's not less sinful than black people in ghettos and gangs violence. It's not more. But I tell you what, depending on who you watch, if you watch conservatives and they will highlight black sin like it's nothing, as if like it's endemic, it's intrinsic to black culture. You know, you've heard this thing, black people are prone to violence and criminality. Okay, if that's true, and I've said this before, what's the time period you're using? Because if you're using from the beginning of America to today, well, what ethnicity and what gender has proven to be prone to violence and criminality? It ain't black people, because we allowed ourselves to be slaves without many revolts at all, right? So again, there is this fascination that somehow when black people do it, it's way worse than if white people do it. And you see this with the Angela Reese and Caitlin Clark. But here's the other one. This idea of being woke. This is crazy. All right. So a couple weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago, there was an interview on this channel called The Hill. And Brianna Joy Gray was interviewing a woman named Bethany Mandel, who wrote a book. All right. She co-wrote a book called Stolen Youth: How Radicals Are Erasing Innocence and Indoctrinating a Generation. All right. This is the book that she wrote. You probably can't see it, right? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't read this book, but I 100% agree with the title. How Radicals Are Erasing Innocence and Indoctrinating a Generation. I 100% agree. This is why, for me, I could never vote Democrat. Well, that's not even the reason why. That's part of it. I just can't do it. So if that offends you, I'm sorry. Thanks for watching. See you when we get to heaven if we make it, right? I'm not defending it. I can't stand the left or the right. I agree with her title. But when she was interviewed, right, and asked to give a definition of woke, this is what I want you to see this. And this is what happened. This is why black people and people who are sympathetic to black, why all these things keep coming up, because you label these things. There's a fascination with things that black people are concerned about. And you even label it woke, but then listen to what she says here. You have a hard time defining this. Watch this excerpt. Listen.
I don't even care about, I didn't even bother getting the title. So she did an interview on the Hill TV show Rising. And she was asked, because she kept talking about woke, 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 woke. So the sister doing the interview asked her to define woke. Didn't go well.
Americans consider themselves very liberal, and probably fewer of them consider themselves to be woke. And so, you know, when we talk about traditional,
what does that mean to you? Would you mind defining woke? Because it's come up a couple times, and I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
So, I mean, woke is sort of the idea that, this is going to be one of those moments that goes viral. I mean, woke is something that's very hard to define, and we've spent an entire chapter defining it. It is sort of the understanding that we need to totally reimagine and redo society in order to create hierarchies of oppression. It's hard to explain in a 15-second soundbite.
Take your time.
Okay, so now the girl Brianna Joy was not asking for a definition of woke to trap her. She was just saying, since you wrote a book on what it means to be woke, and the girl said herself, I've written a chapter on that, on what it means to be woke, yet she cannot succinctly define what it means, right? So it's a catch-all phrase that just means, and typically when you say woke, you're usually, or if not completely, somehow implicit in the term woke is some slander against anything or anyone black that brings up any issue of racism. As if Jesus has come back and all of that's been taken care of. And as if the church historically in America has proven that it has gotten past those things. It's just not true. But this isn't the reason why I'm saying there's a fascination with black sin. I want you to see one more clip. This is a clip of Dana Perino on Fox News, okay? And on Fox News, Dana Perino is basically explaining about woke. She's trying to talk about it. She's an intelligent woman. This is Fox News. Listen to how she describes what woke is. And I'm going to make a connection, and then we're going to finish. Listen to her description of woke. This is what she says.
Is about woke is, can you explain it to your mom? And think about that. And I remember when President Trump was running, and it was before he won in 2016, he used to get standing ovations initially when he would say, political correctness is ruining our country. And everybody that was clapping knew exactly what he meant. But it's sort of like the Supreme Court definition of pornography. You know it when you see it. So the Democrats want to get you in an argument where you're having to define wokeism as if the Webster's dictionary is defining it. And that's not what it is. It could be a feeling. It could be a sense. And I wonder if Republicans or conservatives are going to have to define it more. She could be right. I don't know. This will be tested, but the other poll numbers you showed are important.
Okay, so here's what she said. Woke could be a feeling, could be a sense, right? And so some of these people who have been screaming woke, anytime you bring, that's woke, that's woke, that's woke, right? A lot of them are not able to define it. Now, the way she danced around it was, oh, we're supposed to define it like a dictionary definition, but if you're going to call me something, at least be able to explain what you're calling me, right? Or what you're calling a situation. But here's the thing that you may not have picked up on. What she said was, it might be a feeling, it might be you know it when you see it. Here's what's interesting about that language. That actual language, the very same words that Dana Perino, a popular news anchor on Fox News, that very same language that she's using is what black people were using when they were describing microaggressions, right? A couple of years ago, and all the right just attacked it. Microaggression, what is that? How can you define it, please? What is a microaggression, right? And for black people, it was essentially actions or attitudes that show a certain prejudice. You know, like talking about black women's hair or there was this term that got attacked by the right, Fox News and them, for saying, well, it's like something you feel is like, oh, and then Ben Shapiro famously started saying, well, facts don't care about your feelings. Facts don't care about your feelings, right? It was always about, oh, your feelings don't matter. What are the facts? Can you define what how do you know? And then all of a sudden, here she's saying, well, woke is basically, it's a feeling. It might be this. You just know it when you see it. That's the same language that black people have used to define things like systemic racism. Okay? It's this, is that. No, what are the facts? Show me the facts. Show me the fact. Well, it's a feeling. Well, show me the facts. Well, no, facts don't care about your feelings. What are the facts? What laws are systemically racist? How do you know this? It's a feeling. No, you don't trust your feelings, but yet they're allowed to do that. Do you see what I'm getting at? There is a hypocrisy that comes, and this is why I don't trust any of them. This is why I don't trust the conservatives of Fox. This is why I don't trust the left, because for them, everything is racist, and for the right, nothing is racist. They're all liars, all of them. But what I'm calling out today is there's a fascination with black sin. When black people try to describe this, I remember when I was debating Vodi Bakum in 2 years ago in 2021. He wrote a book called Fault Lines, right? Now, Vodi Bakum is on the right, the conservative side, who would say that Black Lives Matter and people are just using their stories. They don't have any facts. They use their experiences, their stories, and that's how you build. And I remember being like, that's kind of crazy, bro. Because in Fault Lines, I remember Vodi he was talking about people who attack him for being like an Uncle Tom type dude, and he said, but those people don't know me and they don't know my story. He ended the chapter saying this. And until you hear my story, you don't know me either. And then he spent the next chapter or two giving you his upbringing and his story so that it would give him leverage on why he doesn't fit the narrative that you should fit coming from South Central LA, right? So in other words, my story is important so that you know who I am. But when the story is somebody black saying, I've experienced police brutality, that's just cultural Marxism. That's just the left. Oh, the left, that's the stuff that's just like dumb, fam. That's the stuff that's like dumb. And this is what's still happening in society. There is this, Dana, mark my words, Dana Perino's explanation of woke is the same explanation that black people have used to define microaggressions or their experience of systemic racism, right? You know it when you see it. But it doesn't, this is what I'm getting at. So this is why people do stuff like digital blackface. Here's why. Because they're always trying to prove themselves that this is happening, that this is wrong, but it's only wrong when you say it. But if the other side disagrees with it, it's the same thing. You know, when all this stuff was happening with systemic racism, Ben Shapiro, what's the dude, Steve Clown, whatever that dude's name, who is, I forgot his name, Steven, I want to say Clown, I want to say Clowney, but I'm not trying to mock him. I can't remember his last name for real. But he has the Change My Mind channel, right? That dude, who was actually beefing with Ben Shapiro a couple months ago. That dude, Tucker Carlson, they would all say, like, there's no such thing as systemic oppression. This is all made up. That all changed. And then all of a sudden, they would say, hey, we're being oppressed by mainstream media. All of a sudden now, the white heterosexual male is being... Now there's systemic oppression when it happens to you, right? This is a problem. This is what I don't think people define very well. There is even if it's not racism in the most Webster dictionary definition, right? There is a fascination with violence, right? Let me just do a quick history. You have violence that was done by white men for hundreds of years towards black people, towards women and other people of color. Then you had violence done by white men in the sort of wild, wild west area. I mean, we've celebrated violence of Billy the Kid and Doc Holliday and Wild Bill Hickok. And I mean, John Wayne and all those people made millions of dollars doing Westerns in the 50s and 60s. You had kids dressing up, wanting to be cowboys, right? That violence was celebrated. Then we celebrated the violence of the mafia, the Italians. I mean, Al Capone and those people, they were famous, man. These people were incredibly famous. You celebrate the violence of those people, right? You celebrate the violence of the military. And I get that. That's fine. I understand that. But you celebrate that. But then as soon as black people start doing rap music, now it's, you celebrate the violence in Hollywood. I mean, most of the blockbuster movies are usually violence, arrogant, white lead characters who are doing their own thing. Will Smith was one of the first black lead characters in action movies that was like doing his own thing. But it's always been Arnold Schwarzenegger, Tom Cruise, the guys who play James Bond, like all these actors, right? You get mad that Chloe Bailey is going to be Ariel, right? Little Mermaid, a cartoon, right? But yet you got all these white people dressed up and as Jesus. You got Jesus rarely ever looks Palestinian. He's always by a white dude. Or the 10 Commandments, Charleston Heston and them, getting that Donald Trump orange makeup on to look more tan. It's always like when they do it, historically, it's cool. When black people do it, oh, look at all the Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion had a horrible song celebrating their sexuality in their particular private part. Horrible song. And everyone attacked them. But in all honesty, the pornography industry is 87% Caucasian. And they make money from it. So you're going to get mad at these black women do a song about having sex and but yet there's multi-billion-dollar industry of Caucasian people who do pornography. There's a small percentage of pornography that is done by black people, right? So I'm not saying, it's not even about the color. Sin is sin, but in America, we attach a fascination when black people do it. So Caitlin Clark can do this and talk trash and it's competitive. Angel Reese, after she wins, I think the real issue, what people are really offended at, is women basketball. Basketball is a predominantly black sport. Let's keep it a thou wow, right? Y'all got hockey still. Y'all got golf. We only got Tiger Woods and that. You know, you don't see no black people figure skating like that, right? But there's basketball in the NFL. Baseball is a mix. But basketball, college and professional, is largely a black sport. And you got this white girl coming up, killing everybody. Killing everyone. I think the reality is people just wanted her to win a championship. I mean, to be honest, so did I. I like watching greatness, man. I remember I wanted Tom Brady and them to beat the Giants and go 17-0 because I just wanted to be like, I saw it happen. I like greatness. I don't have a problem with greatness. But I think people tuned in to watch Caitlin Clark. For real, they weren't tuning in to watch Angel Reese. So when Caitlin Clark was losing and lost pretty significantly, now there's all this backlash. But underneath it all, there was a fascination with sin when black people do it that comes from a systemically racist mentality that has been transferred throughout history. Sure, we've made progress. Don't say what I'm not saying. There's been a ton of progress. There is nothing today that is exactly like it was during Jim Crow slavery. And anybody black that says that, you are wilding. But we're also not stupid, right? Sin is not going to be eradicated until Jesus comes back. And a lot of that perspective, even though there's been progress, is still there. And I could give tons of examples, but I'm not trying to do that. Because then you're going to call me woke if you haven't already. But I don't really care because I need some sleep. So don't call. I get mad when you call me woke because I need some sleep. I don't want to be awake all the time, except here, being sober-minded. And that's what you get in this channel. But what do I know? What do I know? I'm sure I'm wrong. And you can weigh in all you want. I don't care. Let me just say this too. I so appreciate the comments and people's comments. Thank you. But if anyone thinks I'm going to go debate and go back and forth with you in the comment section, you really need to get more fellowship in your life. You need some friends. I don't have time to be debating you. I said what I said on the video. A comment or two, cool. But I'm not debating nobody on no comments. Make your own video and say your piece, man. I'm just a dude. Who am I? What is that? I'm just a dude with a tooth that's still out, right? Day 4 of 100. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for riding with me. I'm telling you, you don't have to agree, but don't just agree. Disagree because of how it made you feel. Disagree because you have some fact. There is a fascination with black sin when black people do it, that I think is underneath a lot of these problems. And this is what black people get offended at. And we see it, we know it, we experience it, and we call it out. We see it, the difference that you get when you walk into a grocery. Listen, I walked into this is my last thing. I walked into a grocery store recently, and this dude was looking at me like I was going to steal something. Slim, I'm grown. Like, even if I wasn't a Christian, right? Let's just take my faith out of it, right? At some point, most people will just grow out of stuff like stealing. It's like juvenile. You're a grown up. You have a job. You know, I can buy a bottle of water and a bag of chips, right? The person was looking at me like, and then there was a dude that walked in that was white that I thought looked a little shadier than me. He didn't get no look, right? Now, I didn't care. But again, America has so committed itself to a perspective of black people that even though we've made tons of progress, there's still an aspect where there's still a perspective that almost says, yeah, black people are still, when they do it, though, it's worse than when other people do it. And it's just now coming around to being different. Just now. And for black people, we've been here too long. So that's why a lot of stuff happens. So that's why you get these digital blackface, microaggressions. Everything is racist from the left. That's why you get it, because what they're really pushing back against is a fascination with black sin coming from the right. That's what it is. That's the real war that nobody wants to highlight. But what do I know? I just going to highlight it. And I'm getting a root canal on Monday. So Monday's video could be tough because I might have all these cotton balls in my mouth looking chubby, bunnied out. Like, hey guys, I wanted to call you. So just pray for me and we'll keep it moving. All right, y'all. I'm out of here, but you know I'll be back tomorrow, day 5 of 100. Hit the like and subscribe button. If you do not worship Satan, hit the like and subscribe button. Stop playing with me. Stop playing with me. Let's get it, all right? Grace and peace, y'all. I'm out of here.